Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve hlul ukdeden min lisani yefkahu kavli. Selamünaleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatüh. Inshallah, we will continue with our discussion on the human ego, human self, human I. And this is the 30th word, 30, from the book Words. If you have the link to the document that I sent, please follow from there, because the translation is a bit different. But if you don't have the link, you can go to the words and then 30th word and the first aim. We started reading from beginning to somewhere in the text. Inshallah, we will first summarize what we studied, and then we will continue with a question. Question asking why understanding self, human ego, is so central and important. Who wants to summarize? Any volunteers to summarize? No? Oh, Natalia, she has some. No? Okay, okay. Then let's go with Zerin, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. I guess maybe the first thing that was helpful to me last week was first kind of addressing how we approach the Quran, like with this verse. If we're taking the Quran as guidance, there should be something that is very relevant to me in this like verse. I could read it as, since it's talking about this trust and man assuming it, indeed he is most unjust, most foolish. I remember a discussion about that. Like I could take it as, oh, am I just like set up in this way to fail? Or I could take it as, this is a state that you are in, that I find myself in actually. And so how do I kind of like what do I make of this position? What is the trust? What is this amana? We kind of talked about that. I don't think I have a clear summary of that discussion. But we also kind of transitioned into just like thinking about I find myself, like I'm using I all the time. From a very young age, we have this concept of something being like mine, this idea of me, and I am interacting with the world, and there's so many different experiences and feelings that I go through. So what to make of all of this? Like, is it just there for the sake of doing whatever I want or whatever I please? We also talked about how there seems to be these two paths. So using this concept of yourself as like in what I just said, like doing whatever you want, that being sort of the seed for the tree of Zakum, which is just pleasant reality. And then a second path where you put this concept of self or I-ness to its proper use, and that opens up to, that results in a tree of Tuba, which is in paradise. So there was those two paths that were kind of set forth. And then we also touched upon, I guess, this concept of I-ness or self. Maybe we can clarify it a bit because I feel like there are a lot of terms too. Like the proper use of it should be a way to read the divine names in the universe. So through all these experiences and the way I am specifically experiencing them, they should be a key to something, a key to like the reality of what I'm facing and the truth. And so trying to figure out how to properly like know or characterize this I guess. Those were some thoughts.
Just to remind, the text we are studying is a interpretation, tafsir of the ayah. This is from Quran, the Surah 33 and ayah 72. Which surah is that? 33. That's a quiz question. Ahzab? MashaAllah. Okay. Next time, please, everybody. He's not cheating. We did indeed offer the trust, amana, right, to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it, being afraid thereof. But men assumed it. Indeed, he is most unjust, most foolish. And author said, okay, we will study this amana, the trust. And he said, we will study only one part of it. Right? The amana, trust, mean a lot of things. Different scholars approach it from different perspectives. And he said, we will only approach it from just one single perspective, which is the idea of self. Okay? And when you look at the mountains or the skies or the earth, from our perspective, you don't see this sense of self. Okay? But human has, that we see. So we say, okay, I understand that the Quran is talking something about real, right? I can confirm it. I say sadaqna, right? I confirm this ayah, that part. That there's a difference between humankind and the mountains, skies, and the earth. And then author said, indeed, this idea of I or self or ego, words can be used. Just let's be careful when we say something like self or ego. Don't assume we're talking about a certain ideology or a certain, the concept that is already given to you. When we say self, for instance, don't take it as being selfish. It's just the idea of self that we develop, that we are given at very early ages. And he said, through this self, it's so in turn like the essential, so critical to have any connection with the creation and to have any understanding, any connection of the one who creates this universe. Without this self, everything will be so closed and cryptic, he says. One example comes to my mind. Let's say we have this thermostat, right? You can set the temperature. You set it, let's say 75, whatever it is, I don't know. And when the temperature reaches 75, it will stop, right? How? Because it has a sensor that can read temperature outside. So this thermostat has a relationship with the world in a way that it can read temperature, right? So if I want, for instance, this thermostat to shut off when the humidity of the air reaches a certain point. Can I do that with this thermostat? No, I cannot. Not because it's a cheap one. I mean, it is not. Why? Because it does not have a sensor for humidity. What does it mean? Whatever this humidity is in this creation, right? The amount of water molecules, some pressure of something, it cannot understand. It cannot have any relationship with the creation in terms of humidity. You want to say something? Oh. So the same way, author says, the self is like collection of all these sensors, right? When you see something outside, you see that it fits something in you. And through that, you can make sense of them. You can understand them. You can have a relationship. What is beauty for us? What is it, that we call as beauty? Aside from some silly, attempts to define it from geometry or, the other perspective. Beauty is the thing that I see out there or experience that triggers something in me that I call as beautiful, an attraction. Right? This is how I define beauty as a functional definition. Something out there, whatever it is, triggers something in me, and I find myself attracted. The ugly, I find myself repelled. Or wisdom, I find that something in me triggers that I call, when I look at myself introspectively, I call as the wisdom. When I make, for instance, a wise remark, right? I see something similar out there, so it fits. It means I have a sensor for wisdom. I can measure wisdom out there, right? Author says this way, the same way, through the self, the collection of all these measurement tools, you can find out all these names, qualities out there. Right? A sense of color, sense of beauty, sense of power. My phone, for instance, can have a relationship with the rest of the creation. It can sense energy. And when you connect, it says, oh, that's good. Right? It likes it. So, but it cannot have a relationship with the outside world in terms of, let's say, a wisdom. It cannot make sense of it. It cannot even know that there is such thing exists. So when you block all these sensors in you, right, with Quranic terminology, when the mirror of your heart is tainted, you cannot connect with the reality through these qualities, some of them at least. You wouldn't see mercy out there. Why? The sensor for mercy in you have some problem. You have to fix it. You have to clean it, maybe. So through the self, author says, you can understand all these qualities. These qualities are called, in Quranic terminology, what? Mercy, wisdom, beauty. Help me. Something husna. Asma al-Husna, right? The most beautiful names. What it means, the qualities that you observe there. How do you know them? Because you have sensors, the measurement tools inside for these names. So author said, that just like through the self, you can understand all these different names. It will also unlock the I don't know how to put it, but let's say your relationship with your creator as well through these names. It will also unlock the entire universe. Now, entirely, you will see different colors of the universe now through self. So that's how central it is. When you take out the self, what you have, some Sealer people will call it as objective reality. What remains is just one stone, another stone, one atom, another atom, and they wouldn't have any relationship. Right? And you will be same as them. So any comments, questions, objections so far before we start, please? Can somebody pass the microphone, please?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm sorry if this has already been addressed, but what is the word is this text originally in Arabic or Turkish?
For I,
For Ines.
ana. Latin Arabic, ana.
Oh, it's just ana.
Yeah, ana.
It's not like mahia or something like that.
No, ana.
Okay. Thank you.
There's also Ines, which is anania. Yeah. And but just put into context, and we studied this. We read it last week. I don't remember whether we studied it as well. Up until this part, it's mine, and then it's his. Did we study? Is it after question or before question? Second paragraph of the answer. Okay, then we haven't studied that yet. That's great. We read it, but we should also, we will see that the word choice, ana, is also intentional, because you can take it as in relationship with huwa. Ana, I, huwa, him. Okay? And we will see it, inshallah, this week. Word, please.
And one final detail from last week's discussion, we didn't discuss it in depth, but since you highlighted measurement tool, author was referring to it here, and throughout the conversation, this is something that we should pay attention to. This is the paragraph right before the question. So I will just read it. And let's keep this paragraph in mind when we are discussing the rest of the text. As a trust, the all-wise maker gave into human hands an eye. This eye encompasses signs and samples that show and introduce the truths of his lordship, his attributes, and his functions. This was so that the eye could serve as a unit of measurement, allowing the attributes of his lordship and the functions of his deity to be known. However, this part I would like to highlight. However, a unit of measurement does not need to have a real existence. Rather, like hypothetical lines in geometry, a unit of measurement can be formed through hypothesis and supposition. Its actual existence does not need to be established by concrete knowledge and reality. I think this is a interesting paragraph that he gives some fine tuning to the idea. That's important to keep in perspective.
Just maybe simplify it. When we say the thermostat having a sensor for, let's say, the humidity, right? It just the sense, like it's sensing the humidity, but we don't say the thermostat itself has some humidity. We don't say that. It senses humidity, right? When we say we have this sensor for wisdom, and from our conscious experience, it comes to us as if, we also have wisdom. Our author says, you actually just have a sensor for the wisdom. Don't claim any wisdom for yourself. You just sense the wisdom. You just observe the wisdom. Okay? We experience it as if, and we will touch upon that, inshallah, as if we have wisdom and compare it with the universe, and we say, well, I have that much wisdom, and she has, a bit more than that, and she has even more than that, and that person has the, highest amount of wisdom. We think this way, right, in relative sense. But author says, actually, when you think it a bit more careful, you will realize that you're just sensing the wisdom. You have this experience, this relative experience, so that you can understand. But when you come to your senses through light of Iman, you would say, I don't even have that. Okay? But inshallah, we will come to that. Okay, who wants to read question? And we will read up until there's a part in the text which says stop here. So you will not miss it, I promise. And since I apologize, but I have Natalia just in front of me. She's a very easy target today. So maybe she can read for us.
Question. Why is the knowledge of God Almighty's attributes and names dependent on I-ness? The answer. Since something absolute and all-encompassing has no limits or end, it cannot be given a shape. A form or a specific identity cannot be judged upon it, and its true nature cannot be understood. For example, a continuous light without darkness cannot be known or perceived. It is only known when a line is drawn with real or imaginary darkness. Thus, since God Almighty's attributes and names, such as knowledge and power, all-wise and merciful, are all-encompassing, limitless, and without partners, they cannot be judged. What they are cannot be known or perceived. Therefore, since they have no real limits or boundaries, a hypothetical and imaginary limit must be drawn. I-ness is what does this. It imagines within itself an imaginary lordship, ownership, power, and knowledge, and draws a boundary. Through this, it places an imaginary limit on the all-encompassing attributes. It makes a division, saying, up to here is mine, and after that is his. With its own tiny measures, it slowly understands their true nature. For instance, through its imaginary lordship over its own domain, it understands its creator's lordship over the realm of contingent beings. Through its apparent ownership, it comprehends its creator's true ownership. It says, just as I am the owner of this house, the creator is the owner of this universe. With its partial knowledge, it understands his knowledge. With its tiny acquired skill, it understands the originative art of the glorious maker. For example, it says, just as I built and arranged this house, someone must have built and arranged the house of this world, and so on. Thousands of mysterious states, attributes, and feelings are embedded in the I, which will make known and show to some degree all the divine attributes and functions. That is to say, the I is like a mirror, a unit of measurement, an instrument of discovery, and an indicative meaning. It carries no meaning in itself, but shows the meaning of someone else.
Can we stop it just for a second? This word indicative will come many more times. So maybe we should just interject something there. He's talking about two things. One is indicative meaning, معناه حرف, and the other one is nominal meaning, معناه اسم. The terms doesn't mean like you don't have to memorize them. It's not important, at least for now. But the distinction is when we say indicative meaning, as the word indicative, you know, it refers, indicates, indicative. It's not about itself. It's about what it indicates, what it refers to. Okay. So when the nominal meaning is mentioned, it's about the thing itself. Okay. The phone, I can look at this phone as a phone. I say it's a device. When I, touch this button, it will make this sound. If I touch that button, it will make this sound. Right? I can read it this way. Or I can read it as a product of engineering, product of design. And I say that, oh, somebody's manufactured this. It indicates, it refers to the one who made it. Or maybe the one who gifted to me. And if it's a gift. So that's the distinction. Indicative meaning, what it indicates. Nominal meaning, the thing itself.
With this point, I will go back to the beginning of this paragraph.
Yes, please.
That is to say, the eye is like a mirror, a unit of measurement, an instrument of discovery, and an indicative meaning. It carries no meaning in itself, but shows the meaning of someone else. It is a conscious thread from the thick rope of human existence, a fine strand from the garment of human nature, and an alif from the book of human character. That alif has two faces. One looks towards good and existence. With that face, it is only capable of receiving favor. It accepts what is given, but it cannot create on its own. On that face, it is not the doer. Its hand cannot reach creation. Its other face looks towards evil and leads to non-existence. On that face, it is the doer. It is the owner of action. Furthermore, its true nature is indicative. It shows the meaning of someone else. Its lordship is imaginary. Its existence is so weak and thin that it cannot bear or support anything on its own. Rather, it is a type of scale, like a thermometer or barometer, that indicates the degrees and amounts of things. It is a scale that indicates the absolute, all-encompassing, and limitless attributes of the necessary being. Thus, anyone who knows their own nature in this way believes in it, and acts accordingly, is included in the good news of, truly, whoever purifies it succeeds. They truly fulfill the trust. Through the telescope of that eye, they see what the universe is and what duties it performs. When knowledge concerning the external world comes to the self, they find a confirmer within the eye. That knowledge remains as light and wisdom. It does not turn into darkness and futility. When the eye fulfills its duties in this way, it abandons its imaginary lordship and hypothetical ownership, which serves as a unit of measurement. It says, "His is the sovereignty, and to him is due all praise. His is the judgment, and to him will you all be brought back." It assumes its true worship and ascends to the most excellent of patterns. But if that eye forgets the wisdom of its creation, abandons its innate duty, and looks at itself with its nominal meaning, believing it owns itself, then it betrays the trust. It falls under the category of, truly, whoever corrupts it fails. It is because of this aspect of I-ness, which gives rise to all forms of associating partners with God, evils and misguidance, that the heavens, the earth, and the mountains were terrified. They feared an imaginary association of partners with God. Indeed, while the eye is just a thin aleph, a thread, a hypothetical line, if its true nature is not known, it flourishes under the soil of concealment and grows progressively thicker. It spreads to every part of the human body. Like a giant dragon, it swallows the human being. that entire person with all their subtle faculties practically becomes pure I. Then the I-ness of the human race gives strength to that individual I-ness through human and national prejudice. Relying on that collective I-ness, the I contests the commands of the glorious maker, just like Satan. Then, using itself as a standard, it compares everyone and even everything to itself. It divides God Almighty's kingdom among them and among causes. It falls into an immense polytheism, manifesting the meaning of to assigning partners to God is verily a great transgression. Yes, just as a man who steals 40 coins from the public treasury can only justify his actions by agreeing that all his friends present should also take a coin each, in exactly the same way, the man who says, I own myself, is forced to say and believe everything owns itself. Thus, when the I is in this treacherous position, it is in absolute ignorance. Even if it knows thousands of branches of science, it is utterly ignorant through compounded ignorance. Because when its senses and thoughts bring the illuminating knowledge of the universe, they are extinguished. This is because it cannot find any substance within itself to confirm, illuminate, and sustain them. Everything that comes is dyed with the colors within itself. Even if pure wisdom arrives, it takes the form of absolute futility within itself. Because the color of the I, in its condition, is associating partners with God and atheism. It is a denial of God. Even if the entire universe were filled with shining signs, a single dark point in that I would obscure them from view, as though extinguishing them. The 11th word explains in a highly decisive and detailed manner how human nature and the I-ness within human nature in terms of its indicative meaning is an extremely sensitive scale, an accurate measure, an encompassing index, a perfect map, a comprehensive mirror, and a fitting calendar and diary for the universe. We refer you to that text. Being satisfied with the detailed explanation in that word, we keep this short and conclude the introduction here.
Jazakallah. You don't have to speak anymore the entire discussion if you don't want. You already served a lot. Thanks so much. Which is not true for our brothers, right? You've been collecting silence over weeks. Inshallah. Yeah, we will break it. No, that's great. Okay, who wants to start? The first thing comes to your mind after reading this. Initial comments. Any comments? Any quick thoughts? MashaAllah.
Quick question. How does somebody arrive at either direction?
How somebody arrives?
Arrive at either direction of
Other directional.
either, the both directions, the two paths.
Okay.
How does someone get to either direction? Is there some steps that they take, some actions, or how do they end up
When you
with that
say
mind?
other, are you either? Okay. Thank you. My English.
Made a translation for it.
No, it's me. It's me. Yeah, sorry. Okay, good question. My suggestion would be, let's start with the question here, and as we study it, I hope that it will be clearer, your question. But just to put it in the context, tying back to what we studied last week, is a good reminder. Last week we said the self, I, is the seed of two trees. One, Shajarat Tuba, like a tuba tree, which is the tree in heaven, and the other is Sajara Zakum, the tree of Zakum, which is tree in hell. And today we opened it a bit. We said, if you use I in the right way, in the proper way as it is designed, in the purpose that it is given to you, then you use it to know your creator, right? Understand the creation. But if you do use it in the other way, you say, oh, no, I own everything that I sense. I see wisdom because I have wisdom. I see beauty because I have this artistic perspective, right? You start using it that way, and you will find yourself in attributing partners to the creator. What it means, I mean, nobody would claim that I created this universe, right? Nobody is that silly. But I would say, yeah, I didn't create this universe, but I gave rise to Huda, my daughter. Okay. Yes, the mountains is not my the art or product, but the project that I submitted last night was made by me. Right? We start attributing these partnership. And I think if we understand the I, as the author explains, I just realized it directly answers your question. Let's read the question and the answer, inshallah, and then come back to your question. Is it okay? Any other comments? Allah. Why is the knowledge of God Almighty's attributes and the names dependent on I-ness? Like, what is the point of we saying that through the self, through I, you see all these names, you understand the creator, the existence of the creator, names of the creator. Why is this so? And the answer is, since something absolute and all-encompassing has no limits or end, it cannot be given a shape. You need hypothetical imaginary lines, right, to draw draw some boundaries, and through these imaginary lines or boundaries you understand. So that's the explanation. Any comments about that? Is it clear? Let's start from there. Natalia, please. Oh, you have a microphone.
I guess just to open it up, I see this tying to many other discussions that we've had about like needing to perceive the creation in order to understand its maker. So when, like, I mean, it has several examples, like if I'm the owner of this house, then there must be an owner of the universe. So I do feel like I have a grasp on the concept of, like, once I understand like what I can do and my own limits, I understand that there should be something that goes beyond that.
Okay, yeah, good point. Okay, yeah. Other one, I'm just orchestrating. Oh, yeah, I see. Anyone else? Come on, help me. I don't want to, speak myself. Okay, let's start with the example. He gives the example of, I built this house And through that, so what does it mean? Like this example, let's open it up. Just like I built this house, the universe must also have a builder. I mean, yeah, it sounds, simple enough. It is. But it's not about the argument itself. It's about the experience. Like when you build a house, what happens? You realize, like your first attempt, for instance, I can say this from first attempt, and you try to make the first wall, and you say, oh yeah, I can do it. I just watched a few YouTube videos, right? You try it, and what happens? You fail. And then you realize, oh, actually, there is the science of it. You need some knowledge, right? And you start accumulating more knowledge. And then you say, it's not about just knowledge, though. You should also have some, the power to manifest this knowledge. So if you just know it, but you don't know how to, to move your hand, you cannot make it. You realize that as well. Right? And then as you continue working on that, you say, oh, there's actually more in that. You also need some, the sense of aesthetics, sense of symmetry, sense of this, that, right? You realize it's so complicated things, actually, right? And when you go through such an experience, the next time you see something built, you say, oh, I see knowledge, power, the aesthetic, all these qualities there now. You can start seeing them. For that reason, for instance, cooking at home is very important for Iman, for belief. I'm not talking about, being, saving your money, eating healthy. No, it's about the experience. When you cook something, or when you prepare something, what happens? You realize there are all these ingredients coming together. And they need to come together in a certain order, in certain amounts. If you put one of them, for instance, more or less, the meal you prepare will be not so good. Sometimes even you need to throw it away, right? Just one ingredient. I see some smiles, being through similar experiences, it seems. Just one ingredient put too much, and you have to throw it away. That's a balance. That's such a balance. And then you see that, oh, it's not only about the amount, the order, but it's also about timing. You put one ingredient, you have to wait a bit. Like you put the onion, you chop the onion, you put the onion, you start cooking it. You cannot put the, let's say, the other vegetable right away. Otherwise, this onion will give some sour taste, right? Because it's not cooked well. You have to wait a bit up until it gives away, what is inside. Right? You go through this experience, and what happens? You start appreciating the order, wisdom in the things prepared. The next time you go to pick an apple, right, which is even more complex than what you cooked at home, just the apple itself, when you think about it, you say, oh, wait a second. Just like, I spent a few hours preparing this dessert I just made. Somebody, must cook this apple so carefully because it's in the perfect balance. the color, taste, smell, they all work together. When you cook, sometimes it doesn't smell that good, right? With apple, it does. So now you appreciate this. Something you experience, I experienced, I senses, right? And then you say, okay, now I look at the universe, I appreciate it. You want to say something? Okay. Who has the microphone?
I think the metaphor of the mirror is very useful because it seems like that's like the kind of like distillation of everything, like in the world of forms is ultimately like a mirror, and we can only understand things like through the mirror. And if you think about like kind of also like I think about like Plato's cave, like the allegory of the cave. And it's like you're sitting in the cave and there's light coming from behind you. So you see shadows on the wall and you think the shadows on the wall are reality. But actually the allegory like serves like multiple purposes. So in one sense, it's like we're seeing like the world of corporeal forms and we're seeing things in front of us, and that's not the ultimate reality. Like there's a reality that we're not seeing, because like the true reality is like so supreme and so like sublime that like we cannot yet see it. We have to go through the training in order to be able to see it. So like the eye is almost like a shadow. It's like a shadow that you see before your eyes are like accustomed to the light. So like it's like if someone grows up in darkness, if you grow up in a dark place and then like one day you just turn them towards the sun, it's like they'll go blind immediately, like they'll scream because they can't see it. But if you introduce them incrementally to the light, first there's like a candle in the cave, and then there's like a fire, and then there's a flashlight, and then you slowly bring them like towards the mouth of the cave and they see like, the sunlight on the ground, but they're not looking at the sun directly. And then eventually you can, walk out and see the sun. But it seems like even this cooking metaphor that you gave, which I think is very important, because like it's not just the apple that Allah is cooking, it's like us. Like we are the thing that needs to be cooked. And like we are the thing that needs like particular ingredients and particular like temperature and particular like hardships at different times in order to be like cooked properly. And there's an example like in a book once that I read like by a scholar, and he was like talking also like about the eye, like, and understanding like the essence of like it is also about like predestination and like why am I put here and whatever. And he's like the essence of the four is not like you may think like, why was I born in this era and not this era, and why wasn't I born, for example, at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or why wasn't I why was I put here? And he's like, the essence, like Allah makes everything like according to its own like place and time. And he's like the four, a four can never be a five. You slide the four into the place of the five and it just doesn't make sense. The essence of the four is that it exists in between 3 and 5. It can't exist anywhere else. And the same thing for us. So when you think about like I-ness as like not just a shadow, but like a particular, I mean, not just a mirror, but like a particular mirror, that like every eye is like put in its particular place so that all the mirrors like eventually like reflect like supreme reality, but like they have to be in their particular place. And if you think about it, it reminds me also of like the architecture of like some like Islamic like mausoleums and stuff like that. If you think like all the mirrors, like it's like a lot of tiny little glass like that all like come together to like reflect a whole, to like create the dome. Yeah, just some reflections.
The moment you said Plato, I said, oh no, she will say I will be like I is like shadow. And but anyway, so no need to be too, that's okay, that's okay. Too technical, but so the analogy of mirror is very important, because with the mirror, what you see is still coming from the source. You don't see something from the object. Like when we talk about the shadow, for instance, there's light, there's an object which is different than light. And then shadow is the interaction between the two, right? So hence author is giving the example of mirror, because what you see out there, what you see in you or in the creation is nothing but the light from the source. In other analogies, in the later stages, we will not study it here, but the mirror even will go away and everything will become the speech of the creator or the motion of the pen of the creator, the tip of the pen. So this is not a, you know, the objection or anything, but I really appreciate the choices that the author makes, because it prepares our minds in the right direction. But anyway, again, no need to go into too much detail. But Jazakallah, yes, it's really important. You know, the mirror example. So then this I, through these experiences, says, okay, just like I do this, somebody else must be doing that as well, right? So when we do that, we still imagining some ownership or lordship, right? I say, I built the house, right? Just like I made this beautiful drawing, somebody must draw this beautiful tree. Other day, I was listening a teacher. He was talking about the parrot and asking the question, who painted this parrot? And why he's asking such a silly question? And even children knows nobody painted a parrot, right? But he says, no, Mark. When I take a paper and make a parrot, when I go through such an experience, I know that I have to make some conscious decisions. Which color will be put here, put there, how they relate to each other, right? Somebody has to make this decision. Somebody has to take paint from here to there and make the, you know, the drawing. So the same way, when I look at the parrot, the animal, I say, okay, somebody must painted it. How I know that? Through this imaginary lordship, that I'm the painter. So we have this sense. And author says this is the only way you can understand absolute lordship. Because human mind only works in relative sense. I say, I am that much wise, he is wiser. I can only understand this way, right? When it comes to wisdom, within a relative scale. And he says, same way, you look at the creation and see the wisdom just in the same way, initially, in a relative sense. You say, oh, whoever made this tree must be wiser than myself. So this is your starting point. Going back to your question now. If you stay there, you will say, this is my wisdom. This is my sense of art. This is my power. You say, yes, the people or whoever made this tree is wiser than me, for sure, because I cannot make this tree. Otherwise, the other day I was talking to my wife, like we're trying to plant some tiny trees, let's say, or plants, and it's taking too much time. Like digging, putting it properly. One of them, you know, was not successful because I didn't follow, you know, the order that I should have been. So it failed. Some others were successful, but it's taking too much time and effort. And then you're walking by and you see all these trees and you don't see any effort. It's just, somebody put it there. You go to, let's say, a forest and you say, oh, even one tree takes that much effort. What is this huge forest, you say, right? So it is easy to say, okay, whoever planted this forest is, more stronger than me, wiser than me. But still you say, I planted that tree. This is your starting point. If you stay there, you will continue doing what? Ascribing some partners. Yeah, I'm not controlling the sun and its orbit, but I'm controlling its children's orbit, the child's orbit. I tell him when to sit, when to stand, where to go, right? This is the second side of I. But author says this is understandable, quote unquote, because we start with this sense as if we have this lordship. You and then Yusuf.
The ayah that says قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا.
Yeah.
And doesn't that give the sense that I am in charge of controlling myself in like purifying or making it dirty? So doesn't that take away from like knowing that that Allah is control of everything?
So this is exactly how the author explains as I go. He says that you start with such an I, and if you want to succeed, you have to clean. What does it mean? You start with this imaginary lordship, and then say that, oh, wait a second, I don't have this lordship. It's just imaginary. You clean it. You clean it from your claims, and then this is how you succeed, he says. So you should be cleaning it, yes.
I guess, so in this regard, because the question is coming from the point, I sense that what is my responsibility in here? Because it looks like I might find myself ending up in here or ending up in there. And also, if you think about it again from a little bit of a top-down approach, God controls everything. So in this case, do I have a say? But again, let's start from bottom up. Like, where am I? At this moment, where am I? And if, for example, after this discussion, now that I am seeing that actually I can consider this self as strong, powerful, this and that, it all belongs to me, versus, no, I am being given, I am a sensor, as you were mentioning. If I found myself to be in the error at this moment, or really I thought that I was strong, let's say, for a second, but then I realized, does this strength really belong to me? Can I change my direction? I feel like I can change my direction. And in life also, we are being given opportunities not only in discussions, but sometimes in the moments where we feel like I am too good at cooking. And then I invite people for cooking my best food, and then I mess up so badly in this specific feast day. Like, my creator is sending me a reminder, were you really the best cook? Go ahead then, like, do it. Like, such opportunities of facing our reality is already being given us as a mercy. So this is why we are never being pulled in one direction or the other. We are being given instructional nudges, sort of. But again, it's up to me. Still, I can say, oh, yeah, it's because the salts, it just poured down. Like, I was putting salt with good intentions, but it's, what's it called, the thing that contains salt? Salt shaker. Oh, the shaker's cover. My wife left it loosened. Like, it's her problem. So I'm still a good cook. Like, I can still keep fooling myself. Or I can say, well, actually, I was not a good cook. I was being given that. So it's always a choice.
In give a break for 10 minutes for Maghrib prayer and then come back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's continue, inshallah. So we said using self, I, we understand the doer. We talk about the mirror example. I is like a mirror, a unit of measurement, an instrument of discovery, and an indicative meaning. Putting them all together, you see something on you, but then you realize that actually it is coming from somewhere else. I cannot own it. Right? I'm only showing it. That's how you understand. It carries no meaning in itself, but shows the meaning of someone else. It is a conscious thread from the thick rope of human existence, and continues like that. With that face, it is only capable of receiving favor. When I see wisdom, I say, oh, I received wisdom. I see the mercy. I'm walking on the street, pass by a homeless person. I found $5 in my pocket. I look at it, I say, oh, it's too much. I checked the other pocket. I found $1. I said, okay, that's good. And give it, and then walk proudly, right? So merciful. Look at me, I say, right? But then I realize that wait a second, and just say, oh, it actually took me like 15 seconds to change from $5 to $1. Maybe it's not me that is, if it left to me, I wouldn't even give the $1. So I received this sense of mercy. I found myself in the urge of helping. So I'm the receiver. It cannot create on its own. Right? I want things tidy, beautiful. I wish for. Right? This is my desire. I find my home, let's say it's so dirty, and something in me, like start, the bothering. No, I say, like, I cannot accept this. I don't want this. I want it to be clean. And then I find myself in certain actions, right? Holding the mop, just using it in a certain way. Even mopping has its signs, right? You cannot mop anyway. You have to mop in a proper way to make it really clean. You find yourself doing it. After half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on, the craziness level, you look at your home and you say, oh, wow, this is beautiful. This is clean. You say, I received this cleaning. It's given to me. You say, Alhamdulillah. Its other face. So, okay, on that face, it's not doer. It cannot reach creation. It cannot create, meaning I want it to be clean, but I cannot create cleanness. I cannot create the actions that takes me to the cleanness. But I just wish. I just want. On its other face, looks toward evil and leads to non-existence. On that face, it is the doer, it is the owner of action. What author means? It says he thinks he's the doer. He thinks he owns the action. Imagining. Okay? You want to say something? Something's bothering you, but probably it's the smell of shirk that bothers you, right? How dare somebody claim that? Okay, I'm just checking like if there are parts that we didn't discuss. If not, we can continue reading, but yeah, and then he says, that was the ayah you were referring to, right? Thus, anyone who knows their own nature in this way, believes in it, and acts accordingly, is included in the good news of قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. The one who certainly, those who clean are the ones who, the winners. So you need to then make this conscious decision of keeping it clean. Maybe this way it's better, like rather than saying, cleaning it, like keeping it clean from your the false the claims. They truly fulfill the trust. Okay, let's stop here. Let's tie back to Aya and Sister Zerrin, and then you, inshallah. But I just realized that we finished with Zerrin and we didn't give her opportunity. I apologize. Who has that? Oh, okay.
Yes, my eye-ness was tingling. But I just wanted to clarify. So I guess the idea of always being in this position of having to sorry. Okay, sorry about that. So I was just wanting to clarify, so we can't ever not use this tool of the self. So I guess at some point in the discussion, it was seeming to me like kind of how like as a kid you have a tricycle bike and then you eventually remove the wheels and of the tricycle and ride on a bicycle. So you get rid of like kind of like the older tool you were using and you upgrade it to a newer tool. So because at one point, maybe through one experience, you're like, oh, I get it. I am not doing this. I am the recipient of this action. But that doesn't mean for like another experience, you can say, yes, I know who is giving this to me. I always have to start with this imaginary sense of lordship, even if that gives me like a like hearing that kind of gives me some reservations, but or like apprehension. But I always start out that way. Like I can't jump to the conclusion of God is doing this or giving this without first experiencing the quality myself and coming to that conclusion. So I guess could you say then that this tool of myself is getting upgraded? Like maybe as a kid you had a play thermometer, and then as you grow up and learn how it works, you can use a real thermometer, and so the tool is getting improved. So my sense of self is constantly getting upgraded depending on the situations I'm facing, but there's never a point where I abandon the measurement or like throw away the mirror, for example. Like I can't do that. I just wanted to clarify that's because I think at one point we were well, at one point we were saying you could like remove the mirror and like I don't know if you remember, like at one point you don't even need the mirror to like I guess experience your creator, but I don't know if I had misunderstood that statement.
Oh, you're referring to the speech.
Yeah,
Okay.
understand.
The author, yeah, talks about the creation first as a letter or a book that you read and understand about the author. And then it says, oh, actually, it's changing constantly. It's not just the written fixed thing. It's constantly changing. And with each change, it tells me something more, shows me something more. It's more like a mirror. And then it says, oh, it's even more than that. It's dynamic and it's directly coming from the source. It's more like a speech. But it doesn't mean, let's stay in this context and stay in this example of mirror. My understanding is, yes, you always start with this sense of self, because as author says, this is your way to know things. So through belief, you do not become an angel or you do not become something else. You just properly locate yourself. That's all. So I wouldn't say your the self or I upgrades and becomes something else. It becomes thinner, maybe. It becomes weaker. As you deny more and more false claims of yourselves, it becomes maybe the thinner, purer, but that's what you are. It's always there. Yeah.
If I may, an analogy, I don't know if this is relevant. Like if I am like a carpenter, for example, or measuring something, and I make the same measurements all the time with a ruler, eventually I won't need the ruler itself, but I can still make that same measurement. Like, I guess, is that kind of...
I would expecting you would say, I always need like a ruler, because you do always
Okay.
need the ruler.
Okay, I see.
I mean, at least to me, I still use ruler, yeah, let's go with you, inshallah. 5 times.
Yes. Yeah, I had a question about this ayah, Qad aflaha man zakkaha, because I've read in the Quran, like in cleanliness, there are like 2 ways. There's like taharat, and then there's
Can you speak louder?
louder. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
I cannot.
I thought it was too loud. Okay, there are 2, like in Quran, I have read 2 words for cleanliness. Like if you have to clean yourself, there are 2 words. Taharat, like tahirukum, there's that word, and then zakkaha. And so how I understand is like when you say taharat, you mean the external body and cleanliness of the body, right? Like the dirt on the body that you can see, like clean clothes, clean body, anything that Allah has said that is not clean, you have to remove that from your body. And zakah means more of like what you can see, like the cleanliness of the soul. And that is something which only when you clean your soul will you be able to have that understanding of the religion and be able to follow it. So in this scenario, like in this context, how does it entirely like come into this context? Like that's my question.
Okay,
Like
so
how do you clean yourself when you're talking about the attributes of Allah?
how should we understand this cleanness? Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure about the distinction between tahir and the zakah, because not because I know something, I just not sure. But the ayah came to my mind when you talk about that. The ayah talks about for believers, the believers' spouses, for clean people, where I guess the
Some around the word where the command is like for the believers to clean themselves in both ways. When he is like commanding them to pray, to give zakat, to give all of that, he also commands them to like clean themselves.
I'm talking about another ayah which the creator says, for clean people, for clean spouses. And I doubt that ayah talks about, clean people in the sense that they wash their hands. So yeah, but the tahara used there as well. So, but again, I'm not sure. Maybe you are right. Doesn't matter. So let's take it. Oh, tayyib. Oh, it's another. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Jazakallah.
Like it doesn't mean physical impurity. It means like metaphysical impurity.
Okay. But anyway, let's not get lost in such details. How should we understand zakah here? Cleaning what and how?
And the way author framed it, he related dirt in this case with the second phase of Ines, where it was like in the first phase, if I make the house and then say, oh, then the maker of the universe must be way more knowledgeable. If I go to the second phase, I simply say, no, I made this house. And then Umar made his house. Muhammad made his house. Everybody made their own house. And universe, it happened by itself. Like this way of a natural perspective, this is dirt. This is being unclean. Because I am simply becoming a thief, sort of, because I am stealing the property from the true owner and saying, no, this is mine. This house, I made it. And then distributing it as he gave the example. Although the house that I made was also made by him, I was just an observer. I steal it. I said it's mine. But to be able to swallow this for myself, what did I do? Omar's house, Omar made it. For Muhammad's house, Muhammad made it. Like then I am distributing the property of the creator to things, every other thing. So this is being dirty because I am becoming a thief. Everybody else also becomes a thief. This is becoming dirty in this sense. What does it mean to be clean? Cleaning then in this case means saying, no, I didn't, because this is how it is. Somebody accuses you in the court with like throws mud at you pretty much, or you steal something, right? Now you need to clean your honor from this accusation. You say that, no, I didn't steal it. So this is why when you feel like, oh, today's coffee, I made it and it's so tasty, how would you react? How would a believer would react? Astaghfirullah. Like once you catch yourself starting to feel boastful about something, how do you clean yourself? You say, Astaghfirullah. Where does this sense, this prophetic practice come from? You say, oh Allah, forgive me. I slipped and I stole your property, which it was your creation, but I attributed to myself. I dirtied myself. So this is why istighfar is how we cleanse ourselves, meaning seeking forgiveness. I stole something and I'm trying to clean myself. In this regard, really, it resembles a lot with how in the court you get accused, and to clean yourself, literally you're trying to clean yourself from this accusation. But now we are accusing ourselves in this point, really, by claiming ownership over something that doesn't belong to us. I am dirtying myself.
I was also reminded of a verse in Surah An-Najm. I think like the end of it is what was it? فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. So do not purify yourselves. So then in this context, we're saying that the cleansing doesn't even come from me either. Like if I was to say, oh, I don't want to fall into this. I don't want to say that I am doing these or I am deserving of these things, but I shouldn't also be saying I'm the one who can clean myself of these. It's all coming from, I'm just ultimately the recipient. Like I can't say, I can't like take pride in like, for example, say doing istighfar either. Like that's also a gift to me. So yeah, I was just thinking about that verse as well. Like sometimes we could think that, oh, by doing this action X, hence I am elevated by some degree, but worthy of praise, yeah.
So then going back to Fahim questions, yeah, okay. Going back to Fahim's question, how you end up in either direction. Author says, anyone who knows their true nature and believes in it and acts accordingly. Somebody look at himself, we see the wisdom, right? The power, will, but then says, no, it's not mine. I know that. Because sometimes I make a wise comment, but some other times I cannot think of what to say. Right? So when I realize that, when I act honestly, I find myself in one direction. And then author says, so this is the direction of قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. And but if I or the person forgets the wisdom of its creation, wisdom of the creation of the self, abandons its innate duty and looks at itself with its nominal meaning, believing it owns itself. What it means, I see the wisdom, power, and I say that I'm the wise one. I'm the powerful one. When I make this mistake, then I find myself in the other direction, which is وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. The one who corrupts it fails. So then it's my choice, the way I look at myself. It always starts from there. So this is very important. The belief or disbelief, right? Being a believer or unbeliever, kafir, atheist, whatever you want to call it, it all starts from your understanding of self. It all starts from there. The ego, I, is at the center of everything. If you look at yourself and you see a wise person, to some extent, at least I have, more wisdom than him. You look at yourself and see someone who can control at least his children or people who are weaker than him. If this is your starting point, as author says, then you extend it. You say, just like I own myself, I own this wisdom, she owns that wisdom as well. And then you start distributing. And then you say, everything happens by itself. It becomes bigger. It starts from you, the central, like a location, it's you, and then it's become bigger. How? You say, I am the wise one. My family is better than others. My race is better. My skin color is better. And it's getting bigger. As humanity, we are more worthy than animals. As the inhabitants of this earth, we are better than whoever living in the other end of the galaxy. This is how we think. It all starts with I. What you see when you look at there. If you attribute the things yourself, you are in the path of disbelief. If you attribute whatever you see there to the true order and say, I don't own it, you are in the path of prophethood, he will say. Next week, inshallah, he will tie to that. But it's like in that sense, it's not about, the deep philosophical discussions, scientific, the discoveries, these on that, leading people to one direction or other. It's not about I experienced that in my family, hence I became like that. No, no, no. It's all about what you see when you look at yourself. What is inside? That makes things different. Yeah. Microphone, please. To Maria.
Assalamu alaikum. I don't know if this is maybe just from me not really fully understanding what I-ness is, because when I hear what you say about attributing things to ourselves, that sounds to me like narcissism, right? An inflated ego. But perhaps you could try to resolve this paradox for me that, interestingly, I feel like as I've gotten to understand more about Allah and Islam, I actually feel like I have a greater sense of not self, but like I feel more grounded in who I am, as opposed to when I knew less, or in periods of time where I'm not always reflecting as much on Allah as I should be. Like, for example, like I get to focus on writing my thesis right now and I completely forget everything else. It feels completely untethered. Even though you could make an argument of like, oh, look at everything that I've learned, look at everything that I can understand. So I guess I'm just trying to understand how to resolve that paradox, because for me, I feel more like myself when I can have almost like a conversational relationship with Allah of this, I am not Allah, and that's all I know, and I am truly only defined by that. But that in itself is so much more concrete than, when I'm not aware of who Allah is. Does that make some weird sense or not?
So, inshallah, I would like to make a picture and see if there's going to be an answer to your question in this regard, because I would like to pick up on the word that you said, I'm not Allah. That's a good word, because this conversation can take us to there. Like, since I am having this measure that makes me know my creator as merciful, am I a micro merciful? And am I a small God, so that I can get to know him? Of course, nobody claims it here. That's why author was super careful, actually, when he said it is a measuring stick, and the measuring stick itself is not the thing itself. Like the thermometer is not heat, a ruler is not length, but it's used to measure length. Likewise, I am given this measuring tool for mercy, wisdom, knowledge. But when it comes to producing wisdom, producing knowledge, measuring stick doesn't do that. This is why author, now I will take you to the paragraph. It says that Aleph has two faces. He said Ana is like an Aleph, and it has two faces. He said when it comes to existence, so when it comes to existence, it doesn't have any share, it said. It can only accept if given, but it cannot create. That was a very important. Ooh, babies are hijacking the discussion again. This is what happens when I start talking. Is that about me? So, yeah, I am given these measures with which I get to know, but I do not create. So I think this is the part that we not need to understand hypothetically, but practically. Is it really the case? Like, do I generate wisdom or do I recognize wisdom? So with the I that is given to me, author's suggestion is that just check yourself. You are given tools to recognize wisdom, and this is the proper use of this I. But if you abuse it, if you spoil it, what happens? I start claiming that all the wisdom that I observe on myself is mine. This is when I start playing the God, sort of. And this is where, like to put it a little bit in terms of theologies, like in Christianity, human becomes mini gods. Because Jesus was such a God on earth, why you are not? But how did this end up happening? Because if God can become on earth, earth being a restricted space, if absolute can become represented in the limited, so can be represented on you, which means you become God. This is why Christian wouldn't have any problem saying so. But in practicality, this is unreal. Like, this is not real. It's a claim, it's a fancy, but it doesn't have any truth. How can you become a God? This was the point that author, like, explicitly being careful, saying that it's not real. It is imaginary. It is just a measuring stick. And the pure form of it would it staying as a measuring stick. Practically speaking, how would this go, as Sister Zareen was mentioning? So it should always stay as I am the recipient, I am the taster, I am the sensor. I can only appreciate its existence and be thankful for it. But I should never claim that I do own it. I make it. I am strong. I am smart. I am wise. If I start making these, first of all, it doesn't have any reality. It's baseless. But then this fancy world will start consuming me. This is the problem that the author is warning us against. I don't know if I'm making sense. So this is the part that I need to avoid. But as Sister Zareen mentioned, you have that too. Like, that I-ness is given to you. And you cannot abandon it. You just use it in the proper way. Or abuse it. This is what is given to you. You cannot not use it. Like, what will happen? You will not experience any mercy in your life. You will not experience any sustenance in your life. Can you? Like, can you not eat food at all? You have to eat food eventually, right? So you are given this. It's part of you anyways. But in two ways you can approach it. If you use it properly and stay in the mode of a abd, in the best form, in this case, meaning abd, I am owned, I am a provider, I am only the recipient. If he gives it to me, I will accept it. That's all it is. This is why the mirror metaphor makes a perfect fit here. Mirror does not have any color. Mirror is a dark object. If you reflect yellow color, it reflects yellow color. And the moment light is cut, mirror is black again. Nothing is on the mirror. So Ana, in this sense, is a mirror. It can accept if something comes on it or reject. That's all it can do. So recognizing this is the main point. And this is the hard part. Like, everybody in this room has this Ana. But author in here is expressing it in a, like, conceptualizing it, identifying it, because everybody is using it in one way or another, or maybe both at the same time. He's just trying to wake us up, saying that check which way you're using your ego, your Ana, in moments, or your I-ness in moments of your life. I think this is the main part that we should be taking from this discussion.
Jazakallah khairan. That's okay. No, please go ahead.
And Arsalan is proving further. He will ask you that further, inshallah.
I don't know. It's just like I don't know if it's a question or a comment based on what Brother Berkan was saying before, I think before Maria's comment, and now I think we discussed this before, that or like similar to this, what we're discussing now. Basically, we have to realize or recognize that everything is given to us, and like what we're experiencing now is like a a series of choices like that are displayed for us, and then the only thing we're doing is like just choosing something. Even meeting someone is not in our hand. Like this, God puts these opportunities or these people or these things in front of us.
Beautiful person.
But then sometimes it's easier to see this than in certain things. Like, for example, if you have like money, it's easy to see you've been given this money, and that if you're like doing this zakat and nafs, you would also be willing to pay your zakat, for example. You recognize that this money was given to you, and when it's time to give, you would give knowing that this is not yours, and so on. And then, but like when it comes to things like wisdom and like mercy, so for example, if we say like there's a like the two fathers, one of them is ideally, like if we think about it, like because we're all given sustenance, it means we're all given wisdom, we're all given mercy, or we're all given the intellectual ability to know what's good, what's bad, what's merciful, what's not, what's wise, what's not. Maybe to a certain, like not all at the same level, but like, so if a father like is treating his kids, one father is treating his kids always, like with mercy. Let's say he always knows like, and he's given this mercy, and this mercy is kind of like manifesting by how he's treating his children, right? And then there's another father, let's say, he's not doing the same. So let's say he gets angry, or maybe, God forbid, he would, like whip or hit like his children or something like that. And then what does that mean? Was he like given this mercy, but he decided not to? I'm assuming, like, of course, he was also given the intellectual ability to know that this act is wrong. So was he like, he was given this mercy, but he decided not to like act with this, like, within this divine mercy? And I think like the question would be that, because you were saying that this is not up to me, like nothing is up to me. But at some point, I think there's something that is up to me, like this Anna, and that's the whole point. Like you're saying, there's no one is better than other or so. But I think when you choose to manifest these things that are given to you, and when someone else chooses not to, then they become better than other. Like, isn't this how we are judged, or how we are kind of like, we know this believer is better than this believer or so? Is it just by how they decide to manifest what is like given to them, whether they act according to that, like I don't know if I'm clear, but it's just, I think the idea that like no one is better than others. So don't I have some like agency, some small agency in that can make me that can make this father better than that father, because both were given almost the same thing. Let's say, of course, no one lives the same experiences and whatever. God knows what that father has been through. But like, just looking from that lens, can't I say that this father is better than that father, because with the agency that he was given, he chose to act within this like to manifest this mercy, but that father didn't. Yeah.
Okay, Jazakallah. Very nice question. There are many aspects of it, of course. And we can look at just one, part of within the context of today's text. So, I mean, first of all, I always, personally reject examples about hypotheticals. So I have to make another example about a reality, a moment. Yeah. Yes. I would do the same thing with myself. Like while listening to you, I just thought about a moment in which I was not merciful to my children. I know you will not believe me, but there are such moments. May Allah forgive me. What happens in such moments? Like I'm checking myself. And it's easy to see the choices I make. The choices about self again. Again, within the context of this text. There are many other aspects as well. But within the context, the way I see myself. First, I am more powerful. Second, I know more. What I want to do is more valuable than what she wants to do. Okay? I can judge better. Combine all of them, and the child is asking something from you while you want to do something else, and she wants it not through just with words, but some annoying voices and sounds as well. So what happens? You act unmercifully. Yusuf acts with hand. I act with my eyes. So what happens? Interpretation, my interpretation of myself and herself. This is the summary. And all my claims that I have something very valuable to do. Why? Because by doing so, I will earn something. Why? Because by doing so, right, I will become better. I will do something meaningful, whatever it is. I'm attributing all these things to things. All these, the titles to myself. So this is the source of not acting merciful, at least to me. For other people, I don't know what is happening inside, but when I look from outside, I see something similar. Just like, the author says, you see mercy out there. Why? Because you have the sensor of mercy in you. It acts among people as well. Because I have this sense of mercy, I look at Yusuf and it starts beeping. I say, oh yeah, he's merciful. I look at Adil, it stays silent, right? And he's shouting to his child. I say, okay, this sensor is not moving. So this is how I say that it's a non-merciful, unmerciful, whatever the correct form, Fahim would know better. The thing, action. Because the sensor is not working. So I say, oh, probably he's doing something similar. Right? Again, with your example then, one father, the other one. One father look at himself and understand the true nature of I and her as well. Like we can extend it. Ana, hiya, right? The other father look at himself, interpret it in a different way. He thinks his imaginary lordship is the true lordship. Small, but still. I mean, question yourself. It's really, I don't know, it will be easier for parents, for you, and for others, maybe compare it with your parents. We really sometimes convince ourselves that she has to listen to me. I mean, I say, shut up, and she does not. Why I get angry? It's not because, she's disturbing the environment or she's doing something, dangerous. No, it's all about I ordered her and she refused to listen. How dare? This is the whole story. It's all about the I. Imaginary or real lordship? And like, can't we say one is better than the other? In that sense, yes, one is true. The author says a very interesting thing. One face look at existence, other face looks at non-existence. So one is better than the other in the sense that one is true, the other one is false.
So this reminded me of how we choose among politicians. Like a politician who steals less versus a politician who steals more. The one who steals less is better, yes, but still a thief, right? So the ideal case would be a politician who doesn't steal anything, and we should appreciate them for doing nothing wrong. Still, like, did they do anything positive? I mean, they just didn't steal. I mean, in this example. So yes, relatively, I can say that this politician is better, and I will vote for the one who steals less. But your actual question was, isn't there any agency which is praiseworthy? Like, didn't I even deserve this much of appreciation? Like, yes, I mean, you didn't steal anything, but you didn't put anything forth either. This is why he was emphasizing that when it comes to existence, it doesn't produce anything. Like, Ene doesn't create anything. It doesn't produce any wisdom. The best it can do is not to claim that it produces wisdom. And this is the expected default state. So this is why there could not be any way of getting credit. What are you going to get credit for? But if you mess it up, you truly deserve chastisement because you stole something. So in this regard, your agency in there simply is, if you don't mess up, good. Be happy with that, and don't expect anybody to thank you for that. And in the past, we were mentioning this as an explanation for why in the tradition it says that paradise is a gift, but hell is truly deserved, like a deserved punishment. But when it comes to paradise, it's purely coming out of grace of the Creator. So you never earn paradise.
Okay, we will inshallah conclude here. I'm keeping myself so hard not to give the example, but because she talked about, I'm not, it reminded me this, the narration in Sufi tradition, the Ana, the self, is being asked what you are, who am I? And he answers, Ana, anta, anta, like I'm, you are you, I am me, you are you. And then it's being tortured. Asks the same question. Says, who you are, who am I? I am me, you are you. Again, torture, the same answer. And then he's treated through hunger, I believe, right? Hunger. They ask the same question, and the answer is this time, I'm Abd and you are Rab. So I am like I am me, he is Allah. You still have this, the separation. The relationship that you were looking for is not there. You have to go through the life experiences, your submission, for instance. And after that only, you can realize that I'm not me, I am Abd. I'm the needy one. This realization will grant you. Otherwise, when you say I'm just me, it will mislead you. You will say, okay, from time to time I need Allah. He will help me, but other times I just live. The more you realize that you are needy, and how you do that, as author says, more you realize that you are a recipient. But you can only realize that through life. Through negligence, you cannot learn anything. But get the hardship, go through the hardship or enjoyment, and then you can say that I am abd and you are not. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.